The crowd was hungry for public humiliation. They surrounded this woman accused of adultery, and they drag her in front of Jesus, who's about something else. And they goad Jesus. They goad him to condemn her. They goad him to humiliate her as well. That day, that afternoon, it was her turn to wear the scarlet letter. It is hell to be exposed. It's hell to be caught in a mistake and called out for it in front of the world. It's hell to not know the answer and say something stupid in front of the whole class. It's hell to pretend that you read the article you were supposed to have read and try to bluff your way through it, knowing surely that that teacher and everybody else in that room knows you didn't. It's hell to be embarrassed in public, to be made fun of in front of a whole group of your own peers. It's hell to be disapproved of. It's called shame. Shame names that sharp sense of humiliation that public exposure brings. Shame is something we've all felt at some point or another over the years. It's about exposure. It's about feeling completely exposed and looked at. It's about being visible and not ready to be visible. Ironically enough, we want to be seen, we want to be acknowledged and respected, but only when we're ready. Only when we feel adequate to stand in another person's gaze. Only when we're ready. And when it happens and we're not ready for it, like Adam and Eve before us, we just want to cover up. We just want to run and hide. It can even leave us mute, unable to speak, maybe ever again. It's just that dreadful to be shamed. It is a humiliation. Shame is the name we give that sense that we are unworthy, that we are inadequate as human beings. It is that unspeakable emotion, shame is. Shame is the price of belonging. The human drama of just wanting to belong is what is at the heart of it. We all long to belong. We all long to fit in, to be part of the group. We yearn to be chosen. We yearn to be included. Evolution has left us with this sense that our very survival is at stake if we don't belong, that we would be doomed to try to live outside the group. Evolution has put this in our bones, our DNA, and our genes. It's that bad feeling we get when we realize that we've disappointed someone who means a lot to us. It started when we were kids. It started likely from our own mom and dads who probably never even meant to leave us with this. Most likely they're trying to socialize us some, trying to tell us how to connect and fit in. But you know, it was the way they looked at us sometimes that felt to us as little kids like love was pulling back and pulling away. Maybe forever. It told us we failed in another person's eyes. We've fallen short of their expectations. Our behavior is in public view now. People who matter to us are watching, and if they don't approve, we risk being excluded. And there's nothing we hate more. It's that bad feeling, you get when you're named with names that taunt you. Names that make fun of an orientation that might not even be yours, but are tagged onto you. Names that taunt you because of your skin color, or your ethnicity, or your religion, or none. It's when we were belittled, and ignored, and discounted. Nobody wants to be discounted or have our ideas discounted, ignored, or even more, belittled. It's a bad feeling, It happens when something we value is trivialized by a teacher or a coach or a peer. When we are the object of another person's humor, they're having a good laugh by putting us down. There is an antidote to this shame. The only antidote to shame is love. For healing to come, we have to meet a love that's bigger than this. And this is where Jesus comes in. Notice what happens in the rest of that story. While these men had brought this woman dragging in front of Jesus, in front of the world, and while they were goading Jesus to condemn her and to humiliate her out loud, even more, he seems strangely uninterested in their agenda for her. He refuses to condemn her. He refuses to humiliate her. Instead, he forgives her. He forgives her and encourages her to avoid this self-destructive behavior for the rest of her life. Then he sends her on. His graciousness seems to dispel her shame. That's what forgiveness does. It breaks the spell of shame that's haunted us. Forgiveness heals shame. Jesus is reminding us here that there's another measure to our worth. He draws the circle of belonging big, very, very big. He draws the circle of belonging wide, even beyond family itself. His circle of belonging includes the one most of us want to shun. And while society manages to narrow that circle almost to a dot, basing it on status and achievement and bank account, Jesus undermines that construct, and he offers us an opportunity to redefine belonging, to redefine the group bigger than it was ever known to be. He was a nonconformist himself. He tells us it is okay to not have to march to the same drummer that everybody else marches to. He tells us there's room for the prophet in this circle of belonging. He was one himself. He was one himself who didn't march to the same drummer as the rest. And he even died this most shameful death, more shameful than you and I could ever imagine. And he could choose it because he was one of those prophets who found his sense of belonging in a relationship bigger than all the rest. It's why he could choose to die in such a shameful way. It is this Jesus, it is in this Jesus that you and I can learn that our worth is rooted in God's having saved us. My value, my dignity, your value and your dignity arises from the bond that will never be broken to a Creator who judges all of creation as good, as very good, who judges each of us as good, as very good. If our identity is anchored in a more powerful sense and source of worth than other people's opinions of us, we will be delivered from shame, and we will be delivered from living in the fear of shame that keeps us cowering and hiding our gifts and being so shy that we hang on the wall instead of speaking out and letting ourselves be seen, because we will know where we get our belonging and what our group is. And that nobody can take away from us, ever. Our best hope for healing our shame lies in finding the places and the persons where we are free to be ourselves without fear of ever being shamed again. Those places and those people in this world with whom we can share our story and discover that there's no one left to condemn us here, that the one left only looks at us with love. And while he or she or they will never ever support this destructive behavior that I may be choosing, they will also never pull back from me and take their love away from me. They won't pull back from loving us and accepting us as we are. This would be Christian community at its best. Religion has had an ambiguous relationship with shame. And for some of that, I'm truly sorry. There are ways the church has shamed us, true. And instead of making judgment about behavior, we felt it to be about ourselves, us. That's true. And it's also true to say that the same church that has sometimes shamed us also insists that I'm more than what I do. That's true too. And it's the same church that gave me this Jesus, who stood in front of the woman that day. I hope to God it is what the Catholic Student Center here can be for you. Whether you come here often and for many years, or you just are passing through as a student these years. I hope that you can find this to be a place full of people who will not shame you. That this can be a community where you are respected as a person, no matter what you ever thought or ever did, ever. A place and people where mutual respect marks every conversation. Always. Respect. I hope to God that during your years here, this can be a place where you can drag yourself. Where you can drag yourself after you've been shamed out there in the world, or after you're very ashamed of yourself, and find this Jesus in conversations or in sacrament. Say to you here, is there anyone here to condemn you? No. None. Nor will I condemn you. Now go.